Welcome to a special DPS Q&A with Deputy Superintendent Dr. Tony Smith. We have a very exciting reason he's here today. A big announcement to discuss. Should I say it, Tony, or do you want to?
Please, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, DPS just released graduation rates for the 2024-2025 academic year. And drum roll, this class saw a 4-year graduation rate of 81.9%.
82.
Yeah, that's basically 82, an increase of exactly 2 percentage points year over year, and the 4th consecutive year that DPS has attained an all-time high under the current methodology. So it has just continuously gone up each year. Tony, talk us through the significance of this number and what it's taken to get here, again, because this has been something we've been seeing year over year.
Yeah. First off, we're so proud of our kids, our students, our teachers, our parents. This is an example of DPS persevering, right? Making sure that every kid is seen, every kid is heard, and they're given opportunities to go to their career, to college, to beyond, to figure out what their life is going to hold for them. And we're just so excited that we've been a part of that. We've done a tremendous amount of work to show the path through high school, to give kids every opportunity to seize the greatness within DPS and the greatness within themselves, and this represents them doing that. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, so many things go into that number. And importantly, I do want to mention that we saw significant year-over-year increases for Black students, for Latino and Hispanic students, for students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged students. Every single one of those numbers was above the target the district set. Is that right?
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to this idea that what we focus on gets done. And so seeing our individual students, understanding who they are, what they need to graduate, what they need to be successful in school has been our mission for the last 5 years. And we really are starting to hit a stride that shows we are really getting to a place where we're understanding, implementing, and succeeding. Now, I'd be remiss to say that not every group saw that same growth, but it gives us opportunities to look at where we fell down, what barriers exist, and how we remove those barriers for those kids. And so I have all the faith in the world that we've gotten to this place and will continue to excel.
Excellent. You and I have previously discussed how DPS has made a lot of efforts, specific strategic efforts to improve academic performance from elementary through high school. But what intentional efforts go into graduation rates specifically? Because we know that's a little bit separate even than just performance overall. How is it different? How are you targeting certain groups or schools, certain resources and supports? Tell us what goes into increasing those numbers.
That's a great question. Graduation is a culmination of 4 years, sometimes 5 years, but a culmination of 4 years. And really, it starts in their 9th grade year. How many kids are passing? How many kids are failing? How we're tracking kids. We look at graduation by class of, but then also cohort of. So looking at all of the students who came to us 4 years ago, how are they doing? Where are they at? What do they need? How did they do in 9th grade math? How did they do in 10th grade English? How did they do in 11th grade science? Understanding the totality of their high school experience so that we create opportunities for them to stay on track while accessing their purpose and their passion, while meeting those educational benchmarks. It really has been a look at each individual student. I get so excited about my leaders because every year they send a list to us of here's how many kids are in my school that are seniors and ready to graduate. And they could literally tell you a 12th grader in period 3 has failed a class. And so we need to make sure that they either get credit recovery or tutoring so that they don't mess up. And also, big shout out to the kids. Each of those percentage points represent a student who has persevered through a lot of challenges. And having a high school senior myself, I understand senioritis is real, and that drive to get out into the world and do your thing is there. And they see themselves as adults, but they've done the pieces needed to graduate and fulfill the requirements. And we're just so proud of them. So graduation is a culmination of a high school experience, and it shows their growth and maturity from their 9th grade year all the way up to their senior year in graduation. And I'd argue where we've really been pushing DPS is to give parents, families, and students an opportunity to see themselves starting in DPS as early as ECE 3-4, seeing their trajectory and graduating through one of our high schools, making sure that we paint that path for them, that path of excellence, that path of excitement.
4 years, you point out, is a long time. I mean, you look at the class of 2026 that will graduate this year, and when they entered high school in 2022, we weren't so far removed from the pandemic. The class of 25, the rates we're talking about, they were in 21 when they came into high school, so very much still in those pandemic years. So a lot of changes in life happen over that time.
Yeah.
I love that you talked about how you're intervening in 9th grade, then you're looking at 10th grade, you're looking at 11th grade, and then at 12th grade to the very last moment that you can. And it sounds to me like it's very important that you continue to intervene in all of those years, and the teachers do that.
You know, I think every teacher and leader would tell you that schooling is personal. You know, they really see their students for who they are. I remember as a high school principal looking at the kids that came in 9th grade and being so proud of them as they graduated and walked across that stage. The relationships you build, the opportunities that you have to impact young lives and to be influenced yourself is just a tremendous, it's a tremendous thing. And our teachers, our leaders, our community of schools really takes that personally. And this really attack on the graduation rate to get as close to 100% as possible is really a testament to their work and to their belief in our kids, their belief in the equity of education and their ability to decipher, understand, and really impact what kids need.
How do you factor in the rigorous requirements of graduation? DPS actually has more rigorous requirements than many other districts have. And then there are always new ones. I just did a podcast on financial literacy, which is a new requirement for the class of 2027. So when these changes come into play, how does your team tackle those?
You know, one thing I like to brag about is we're number one for a reason. And what we, you know, District 1, DPS District 1, we're number one for a reason. It's because we are the hardest. It's more difficult to gain a high school diploma from Denver Public Schools because of our requirements than any place around the state of Colorado. That's something we take great pride in, and those 2% increases that we've been seeing year over year is a testament to the way that our system is engaged and set the expectation. When you talk about new requirements, we really think ahead. And so strategically, we've been planning for those new requirements for about 2 years now. And the central office team, shout out to Dr. Haviland and College and Career Success, they've really been talking with their counselors, helping schools understand what does that look like from a scheduling perspective, a teaching perspective. How are you making sure that your kids have access to those courses? And then shout out to the teachers and to the families that asked us to do this, because it's a skill that kids are investing in and is going to help them be better prepared when they leave here. So not only are we the most rigorous, but kids are going to leave the best prepared, right? And I think, you know, the Colorado graduation requirements are a menu of things that you can use to demonstrate competency and to graduate. And we have kids that graduate all over that sheet and double up on several things. So excited about the opportunities that they take, because our kids are number one for a reason. They go to DPS.
Yeah. We have a large number of students who engage in concurrent enrollment in college level courses. We have a lot of pathways schools that are focused on credit recovery programs and really targeting students to make sure that they do finish with something. You know, it's worth noting, I should say, that the completion rate was also 83%. So graduation rate almost 82%, but the completion rate is also important. That's a student who completed a high school equivalency, so still leaving with a meaningful certificate of some kind. And I think it's important to talk about how you are looking at all these different groups of students, the college bound, the ones who are already on track, getting college credit, the ones who are taking a little longer to get through high school, but still making sure that they complete something as well.
Yeah, you know, it's important to understand that graduation isn't a finish line. It is a doorway. It opens a doorway to the rest of your life. And so our goal is to make sure that kids leave us prepared for a college career and beyond, understanding their passions, understanding their purpose. But what this really tells me is that we truly see kids in Denver Public Schools. A traditional high school path may not be for you, and so our pathway schools really meet that need. When we think about the interventions we provide or the course offerings, we're trying to make sure that every kid feels like they're invested in their own education. So when they walk out of the doors of a DPS high school, they really can take advantage of anything across the state of Colorado or the nation because they're equipped. We don't stop here. We want to create lifelong learners. We want to go out and see our kids do amazing things, and they have. We talk a lot about Earth, Wind, and Fire, but we've had 4-star generals graduate from our high schools. We've had Betcher scholars. We've had Gates Millennial scholars. We've had business tycoons and billionaires. And we anticipate that this last graduating class will add to that legacy of DPS, seeing themselves as a part of a family of schools that really wants them to do great. The thing I keep honing in on is that we see you. In Denver Public Schools, we're the largest entity in the state of Colorado, and we still see each and every kid and provide avenues for each and every kid, right? And we endeavor to do it better and better and better. The one thing I'll highlight also is that our dropout rate has reduced. And so the number of kids that we have that have slipped away from us has gone down. And we want to make sure that we continue to offer educational opportunities that get kids to and through in response to their context. Education is not meant to be a cookie cutter solution. Rather, it's something that you should invest in, and it invests back into you. And I think we're starting to do that here in Denver Public Schools. 100% is the goal. 82 is a great number, and it shows us that we're going in the right direction. But we're not going to be satisfied until we get all of our kids across that stage, out the door, understanding that they can take the world by its horns and guide their path forward.
What work do you do next then? So do you target the schools that still are on the lower end of those rates? Because surely we have high schools that are in the 90s for graduation rates, and then others that are lower. Is it targeting those schools? Is it targeting specific groups with more support? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, DPS is a family of schools, and I really appreciate that question, because how we've been attacking this is from K2. So the more kids that come into our system that aren't reading and hit 3rd grade and are reading on grade level creates more 4th and 5th graders that are able to access content and curriculum that leads them into a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school experience that is truly rigorous and robust. That leads into a 9th grade experience where we can do more with students, do more for students, have more opportunities, and they continue to see themselves grow and blossom. And so it is really, while this is a testament to the high school, it's a byproduct of the middle school experience, the elementary school experience, and understanding that all of our teachers, every teacher who has had an opportunity to engage with a student is responsible for their graduation. And really absorbing that as a community of schools, but also as a community of Denver, to say we're all responsible for our kids and making sure that they make it across that stage, I think is the next phase of work that we've really begun. And so when you hear us talk about not only our COSATs, but our Colorado SAT, our CTE curriculum, our middle school exploratory phases, our Read Act in elementary, we're all gearing them up. We're gearing every student up to be successful and walk across that stage in 12th grade. So while I shout out my high schools and I know that they're tracking individual kids, we just looked at this data yesterday by school. Where are you at? What do you need? How many kids are on track? How many kids are off track? And schools are already starting to think about how they reach out to parents, how they create opportunities for kids. Really, I would say that the kindergarten teacher that taught that student, the middle school teacher who taught that student, the support staff that came and intervened and support and pushed kids and gave that word of encouragement are all responsible and will continue to be responsible for the gains we see in Denver Public Schools.
Let me ask this. You point out the work that's happening at every single stage of the game from pre-K on. And we celebrated a lot of wins this year for DPS. The highest CMAS scores, the highest math CMAS scores ever for DPS specifically, the district being green in the state's performance framework data for the first time in many years. Is that an obvious corollary then? I mean, when you saw the early numbers coming out on CMAS, for example, do you assume then that graduation rates will also be up because you can say we've been putting the work in at every stage, every grade level? Or is it something you still have to treat as separate and focused and really focus on those high school years?
Yeah, that's a great question. We focus individually and separately on individual schools and individual students. While we're seeing great and tremendous growth across the system, that necessarily isn't causation. We do see correlations to the number of students reading on grade level in 3rd grade, graduating high school. We also understand the issues of Denver around transiency, chronic absenteeism, right? And we understand some of the political contexts that are facing families, socioeconomic contexts that are facing families. And so it's not necessarily a correlation, but what it does is gives us an opportunity to triangulate our data and to really not go for the broad scales, but look at our individual schools, our individual kids, trust our educators, trust our leaders to understand what they need, and for us to fill gaps as we go along.
Interesting.
And so, while I wish I could say the more kids coming in at ECE 3-4, going to kindergarten can read, will make sure that we get to 100%. While there is a correlation to that, that's not causational. And so I want to make sure that we see every kid who's in our school every year be as successful as they can as possible, be as successful as possible, excuse me. And that may mean that some kids have to grow 3 to 4 years in literacy in 1 year. And I've seen teachers do that.
Wow.
Right? I've seen teachers catch kids up at a dizzying clip. And I think it's so awe-inspiring to know the work that's happening in Denver Public Schools with the educators we have, the leaders we have, and the support staff we have.
But then once that fifth grader is out of fifth grade, you still are watching them into middle school, high school,
always,
every year beyond.
As a principal, I always told my kids, all my graduating students, we love you, we'll always be here for you. Our door is always open. And I remember teachers who opened their doors to me and mentored me as I got into college and checked in on me and ensured that I was okay. And I'd see them in the supermarket, or I'd see them 10, 15 years later, they'd be coaching my kids. And, they were just stalwarts in my life. And so DPS has those relationships with not only individual kids, but families. And so when we really talk about the legacy of Team DPS, it is so broad and so expansive that everybody in Denver is a part of it. And so we're just so excited that we're continuing to go in the right direction. Again, nobody can hear us say, and nobody will ever hear my team or myself say that we're there, but we're going in the right direction. And I'm just so proud of the people that we work with and for.
Shout out to all those teachers and educators who have put in that work. This 81.9% figure is a celebration for you as well. So you pointed out you'll never be done. Does your team set a new number for next year? Is that how it works from here, or where do we go?
There's a couple different ways we approach this, and most of it comes through our executive limitations and reasonable interpretations that the board sets for us. But also we have stretch goals and things that we know will move the system that aren't contained in there. And so we talk about what are the needs of individual student groups, individual schools, individual teachers. We look at the number of new teachers coming in to the system and the professional development they need, the number of new leaders coming into the system, the number of veteran leaders who can share promising practices, where our data was spot on, where our data was off. And so, Dr. Morrell likes to say it's an opportunity at getting better at getting better. And so we really truly believe in this continuous improvement cycle and learning from people who did it better than us. We have a lot of charter partners, a lot of other school districts around the city that may have done some things better than us. How do we learn from them? We access our partners and our colleagues from across the country through the Council of Great City Schools. We want to make sure that we're learning from like school districts across the country. So we're constantly trying to figure out how to get better and how to continue to do the right thing, to continue this movement in a positive direction, but also keep the main thing the main thing. And what I will say in closing with this remark is our teachers, our leaders, our staff kept the main thing, which was kids, and getting them to and through and making sure that they learn and they perform and that they have the confidence and self-esteem and the support to keep moving forward. So awe-inspiring all around. When you say 81.9, I immediately want to just shout out 82. But in next year, hopefully we have 84, 85, 86, and we just continue to grow and grow and grow.
We see the trajectory continuing that way for 4 years now, and no reason to see that slow down. So thank you so much for really providing an in-depth look at the work happening from your department down to the school level, to make sure that we are addressing the issues that every student faces and getting them all across the stage, as you mentioned, ultimately. Anything else, Dr. Smith?
Just a big shout out and thank you to all of our school leaders. We're in robust conversations around this time, and just know that your work is paying off. To our teachers who are coming back from a hopefully restful and relaxing break, our kids are too, and I had the opportunity to be in schools today, and they are hitting the ground running, wasting no time. Just really excited. They want to get better. We want to get better, and kids are amazing. So shout out to all the individuals who made this 82% happen, and who aren't satisfied as well and feel like our kids can be 86, 87, 88, all the way up to 100. I'm just, shout out to all those individuals who did the hard work and the heavy lifting to get our kids through.
Well, great way to kick off the second semester of school here in DPS. So thank you. Happy New Year to
82.
you. This has been our first DPS Q&A of 2026, but we look forward to sharing more in-depth conversations with Dr. Smith and other members of the team throughout the year here. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.